me and Aaron, and the reason why we kind of started the podcast is we are curious of the world, and we sort of love conspiracies. But what I kind of added, we've asked a lot of guests before, like, how would you try and influence other people to go on a spiritual journey? And I've been reflecting on that question a lot recently because I've been like, well, why am I on a spiritual journey? And my spiritual journey actually came from me looking into conspiracies because it all sort of leads back to ancient times, ancient philosophies, and without even knowing it, you end up in this sort of spiral of spirituality. And I guess it's kind of up to the user if they want to dig deeper in or if they want to just, if they get a bit afraid and they don't want to go down. But we've sort of, me and Aaron have sort of gone 2 foot straight in. Um, how can you explain your spiritual journey on the conspiracy side? Can you see a connection there with your spirituality?
Oh yeah, man. I wouldn't be where I'm at if I didn't, have that initial awakening to like the world is fucked, like everything's corrupt, like all politicians are corrupt, like banks aren't what they say they are, like the Federal Reserve does not create money. The Titanic sinking, there's a lot more to that story, like all these false flags throughout history. You start to get into his story, like the victors write history how they want it to be written. And I think you can't leave ancient texts out of that either. And I think it was getting past the surface level of things, like getting into astrotheology and you know like looking at the Bible or any of these texts like biologically, like it's speaking as like the body is a temple, and like you get into the deeper aspects of that, like, oh, it's like telling you like your body is the church. Like the church isn't this building with four walls, like you are the church, and you need to like clean up that church and like get that church right to where like other people could come to you and like find the radiant light that's alive in them and you, because you're radiating that in your daily life, just in how you carry yourself and how you are as a person. And that flame has never gone out. Like that flame is alive in you. That's the divine spark that's alive in all of us. But I feel like we're so accustomed to like building a callousness over that throughout our life experiences, throughout all the division in our world, of all these isms of who we think we are, and all these titles we put upon ourselves to like not even do justice of who we truly are. Like we're all God's children in my mind. Like we all were here for a purpose. Like and I think when you get into conspiracies and you start to see like everything I was taught growing up is a lie, and like the world isn't what I thought it was, you start to get into this black pilled mentality, like, well, what's the point of living anymore then? Like it's very depressing, honestly. And it's a lot to take in. And then especially like early on back in 2012, man, like we've come a long ways as far as like it not being so taboo anymore. I think the last 2 years like provided a lot of that to come through, of like now you can like openly talk about conspiracies where people don't think you're like a crackpot, like homeless person or something like that, doesn't have a roof over his head or like doesn't have any responsibilities. Like it's quite a paradox because like you said, man, and Sam Tripoli always says like if you take it at the right way, conspiracies always lead you back to spirituality and ultimately yourself, because I think that's what spirituality is like going within and like just sitting with yourself, starting to examine yourself, starting to get to know yourself on a deeper level, starting to see your connection to the all that is, like to creator, to the divinity that's all around us. Um, and you start to pick up on synchronicities and like miracles and like chance interactions that you never would have expected to happen or like write off as coincidence. Like you start to see the magic all around you. Like once you start to plug in to more positive mindsets, I guess, or like just like that. Okay, although they've set this world up how they have, and there's very rich elite if you will, families that run this world. What can I do to combat that? Do I combat that by just calling it out and saying these people are evil, they're doing blood sacrifices and all this like crazy evil shit? Or do I get myself right first, and start to make positive changes on myself and what I can control in my life, and start to build my life the way I want it, start to be self-sustainable in the ways that I can, start to grow my own food, start to do meditations on a daily basis, start to tap into breath work and natural ways of getting to, you know, what you can accomplish through ayahuasca or DMT, just through naturally bringing that out within you through a natural sober practice like breath work or meditation. You know, these are practices that go back eons, man. And I think that those are the deeper conspiracies of like, they've been doing this for centuries, man. And I feel like, you know, once you get into the occult and like can get past like the religious dogma of like all that stuff's evil and like it's all witchcraft and like there's nothing to gain from any of that, like ultimately I think the people that run the world, I think they've tapped into knowledge that they've kept us from accessing, and whether or not they're using that knowledge for good or bad, that's up to us to decide individually, I think, or what we can take from what we can see on the world stage. But at the end of the day, that's still knowledge that we can choose to seek out on our own or not. And, you know, that's how we stay ignorant, is refusing to look into anything that's like turn them into what they are. Like, how did they become so powerful? Like maybe they had access to things that they kept other, you know, lesser than people like they would frame them as from accessing, so they could retain the power that they still hold today. And I think all of us have access to that power if we choose to access it. But first, we have to look at ourselves and we have to start to seek out knowledge that we've been kept from accessing. But ultimately, I think psychedelics can really kickstart that journey for each of us individually. Not to say they're you know, meant for everyone, and that's why I think there's these alternative practices like breath work, meditation, yoga, chanting, that are out there to provide that for people that may not be made to use psychedelics. But then you look into indigenous cultures and, you know, our mental health crisis here in the West, and like how we frame people as like crazy, and we just throw them into a locked room in a straitjacket and like numb them out on pharmaceutical drugs, which I believe that in itself is witchcraft and sorcery, like doing that to a person and like taking the spiritual component out of like what this person is suffering from, whether they do need an exorcism or like something spiritual to be done, like a plant medicine ceremony, or like they need to be guided through a healing ceremony of some sort, and a medicine man that can deal with this in the right way, or like has the experience to deal with these things that in our Western medical system we just don't give any attention to, or we think is like pseudoscience, which in reality I think regular science, what we call science, has been inverted, and science is actually pseudoscience, and pseudoscience is actually the real authentic original science that's been lost. And it's been set up that way on purpose to keep us from accessing who we truly are, like what is our purpose here and what is our deeper mission. Because if we don't know who we truly are, how can we know what we're doing here, or how we can like make the world a better place? Like we're just going to go through the motions and like keep spinning out and like keep going in circles and like keep waiting for a savior to come, or waiting for them to come save us, waiting for a handout for us to like do anything. And that's never going to work. I think we have to be proactive. We have to be you know ready to get out of our comfort zones. And for a lot of us, that is hard, man. Like, I think that's where they've got us, is like they've got us in these like comfort prisons, if you will. Like, yeah, we have a house, we have money to cover our basic needs, like the Maslow's hierarchy of needs are met. But like, what if you have those met and you still feel like you're purposeless and like there's no purpose beyond what you're doing, and you're still focusing on like what they're saying in the news, or whatever distraction they've chosen to roll out to like keep us fighting with each other. And like, as long as we continue to plug into that rather than be discerning and like take from it what we need, and show how it's being used against us, I think we're going to continue to be held short of like what we're really here to do, and like the place we can create here, because we outnumber them like 99 to 1. It's not even close. Like, it's like 99 to 0.01, and I think we need to keep that in mind, of like just how impactful we really are. Like, the fact you guys took the leap of faith and belief in yourselves to start your show, man, I think says a lot about who you guys are and what your mission is here. And, you've chosen not to be mediocre, and you've chosen to, get out of your comfort zone to do this, because it's not easy, man. It's not easy to like get behind the mic and like, get over the anxiety of like, what are people going to think? Because we live in a world where everyone is so sensitive. Everyone is triggered by like the least uncomfortable statements. Like, stand-up comedy is like a miracle to still exist. The fact that they can still say certain things, because I think it was either Tripoli that said it or some comedian. It's like they're the last art form that's keeping us from being completely enslaved. Because as long as comedy's around, we can freely laugh and joke about the polarities in our society without getting up in arms, or wanting someone's head on a chopping block, or wanting them removed from society completely. And as long as that's alive and well, in all art forms, like, I think we're heading in the right direction. And we can't get caught up in everything's fucked. Like, everyone got vaccinated. The new world order's here and here to stay. Like, we have no hope to change the plans they've set out for us. That's exactly where they want us to be, man. Like, that's exactly the mindset they want us in. Like, we have no hope. We can't do anything. We have no power. We're powerless. Like, no, as long as we're in that mindset, we are going to be powerless, and we are not going to make any change. But I think if we can switch that off and like not stay stuck in like this conspiracy rabbit hole forever, like, I think we have to get out of it at a certain point and like take what we've learned and apply it to our lives, like of how we can be more inspirational, more impactful to others, and be of service to others. But first, we have to fill our own cup. We have to get healthy. We have to get mentally healthy, spiritually healthy, start to eat better, start to exercise, start to grow our own food, start to, just be the change you wish to see in the world, as Gandhi said, and watch how that starts to cause ripple effects in your life. Like, once you start to get past these triggering aspects of yourself when you're around others, and you see others like react to that and respond to that, of like, wow, like you used to react like super quick-witted and like angry when I'd like bring these topics up, and now you're like calm and like collected, and like I can actually talk to you about it. Like, what did you do to change? And they start to become curious, and then you start to become an example for others to follow suit. And it's just magic, man. Like, once you start to really be the sculptor of who you are and who you can become, watch the magic start to play out in your life, and everyone around you start to follow suit, man. Like, it's like Carl Jung would say, man, what you resist persists. And as long as we're in resistance to why we're here and what we're here to do, we're going to continue to be a victim of the world, built around us.